Wes Goldberg, good to be with you on this Friday, July 5th, my friend. I have a cold open question for you that's going to poke at you a little bit, your backyard a little bit. We're going into Miami Heat territory, but maybe not in the way people would expect with Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo with the Olympics or something. So the first round pick, Khalil Ware, is that how you put Khalil? Khalil Ware went, at least in my Instagram algorithm, went viral the other day because he named his top 4 players of all time. And here's the top 4 if people haven't seen it. This is the order he put them in. I don't think this is his exact ranking, but these are the 4. Will Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, Anthony Edwards, and Bam Adebayo. He didn't name LeBron, and he said Michael wasn't on his list because he saw a report, which was, I believe, the Tom Haberstroh thing about Jordan's stats maybe being inflated from statistician stuff in the 90s. Yeah. I'm just wondering, are the youth okay? I'm just wondering, like, are young basketball, like, do we have to get them like a crash course in history? Because it's of the moment, and all players will rank Kobe, I think, above any, like, more than us in the media, or I think even some general fans will put Kobe like much higher. But this top 4 is crazy, so I'm just wondering, like, are the youth okay?
Short things are ruining the next generation, whatever this generation is. And I think the attention span and social media, whatever, Khalil Ware, and I want to credit hat tip to Jeremy Taché of Bally Sports, who conducted that interview, a friend of mine here in Miami. He did a great job not screaming at Khalil Ware. And I literally texted him. I was like, I don't know how you didn't walk off that set. Yeah. And start an argument with this guy. And he was like, and he literally was like, I had a feeling it could go viral. And to his credit, it did.
Yeah.
But these kids these days, man, first of all, he saw the Tom Haberstroh thing. I would bet, I don't know, all of my money that he didn't read the piece. Khalil Ware did not read the piece. It had everything to do with just his defensive stats and how the Defensive Player of the Year that Michael Jordan has, award that he has, is a little faulty. But Khalil in that interview said, I saw something on the internet that Michael Jordan's stats were fake. So I'm like, no, we're not talking about all of it. We're not going, like, he went full 2020 election on it. And I was very surprised that's what Khalil Ware took from that stuff. So when I say short things are ruined, like the short attention span, short little blurbs on things on social media that take things out of context, that's what's short. Also acronyms. Acronyms are short.
Yes.
Acronyms are the kids these days don't know what acronyms are. What was it last year? Brandon Miller was asked who the GOAT was, and he said Paul George.
Yeah, you did say.
And he's
Paul
like,
George.
That's my GOAT. And I was like, no, that's not what GOAT means.
That's not what GOAT means.
You don't have a greatest of all time. There is a greatest of all time, and
that can be your Paul George can be your favorite player of all time.
But there's no room for nuance in this world. Everything just means everything, and nothing means nothing. And acronyms are useless, and all these things. So, I was shocked that Khalil Ware actually, and then here's the part that really was interesting to me. When he couldn't say Michael Jordan, he went right to Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
As if there weren't 100 players in the middle that he could have, like LeBron. He could have easily.
Yeah, could have just said LeBron.
He's like, look, Michael Jordan dismissed because of a technicality. So LeBron is now the GOAT. It's like, all right.
Well,
but no.
And Khalil Ware is 20, so he's 20 years old.
20 years old.
So he's been alive. Like, he has seen, like, let's just say you consciously start probably paying attention to basketball in a deep way, probably sometime in your teens. We don't know how much. Like, he would have been around for a lot of the great LeBron stuff. Like, he would have been conscious of 2016, of probably, the tail end of he would have been like a teenager during the Miami run.
But more importantly, not really around for Kobe's stuff.
Nope.
He wouldn't have remembered that.
Thing.
Definitely not around for Wilt, which it started so good.
Yeah,
like, Wilt and Kobe, I've got no problem.
A student of history, Khalil Ware, history buff. Yeah,
and I have no problem with him putting Bam on there as his, it's his teammate.
Not Jimmy though. That was the thing.
They play a different position. He plays a different position.
You gotta be Bam. Okay,
gotta be Bam, and it's Bam's team. It's not Jimmy's team. But I don't know what's going on with the kids these days, man. But here's my big takeaway too: is you're right. It's a YouTube thing with Kobe.
Yeah,
and I do think that there's kids that are whatever. YouTube, TikTok. Yeah, YouTube is too hard for these kids these days. But they just need to swipe and have somebody else tell them what to watch. Right. I think kids that are born, future basketball players, future NBA players born today, are gonna have Kyrie Irving way higher in their all-time ranking than he needs to be because of the YouTube highlights. Heck, You could put together like a great Bones Highland package. That's the problem when you just post the highlights. And just like, you could put together a Bones Highland package and you can legitimately go 20 years from now, how did anybody ever stop this guy?
I'm really waiting for the Monta Ellis like rehabilitation arc of just
like that. That's a good take.
That'd be a good summer episode, guys. We could, that's for the YouTube factory for us. What's
your Mount Rushmore?
Okay, LeBron, Michael, Bill Russell, Magic Johnson.
That's good. No, I think mine for sure is LeBron, Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, and Andre Karolinko.
Who's your favorite like player of all time too? I want to ask you this. Who's like your guy, like just a guy you love for whatever reason? I love Durant. I love Kevin Durant.
I mean, my favorite player of all time was Dwayne Wade. Is that what you're asking me, or just sort of a random player?
I'm LeBron is my favorite player of all time, but I want to like
Kevin Garnett always had a soft spot.
Oh
for
yeah.
him.
When I was a kid, I got to pick like 2 games a year I would go to. So I would always pick. There was a rotation that I would go through. It was the Spurs to see Duncan, because I was just a weirdo. Because no one loves Tim Duncan, but that guy probably should.
That was weird. You were a kid.
Yeah, I had Wes. I'm a nerd.
Tim Duncan wasn't a fan.
Kevin Garnett, and then the last one is the weird one. I loved Pacers Jermaine O'Neal. I had a Pacers Jermaine O'Neal jersey for some reason. God bless my parents for buying me that.
He had 2 really good years.
Yeah,
there's no problem with that. I have no problem with that.
It's just like a random one, you know.
Mount Rushmore, Jermaine O'Neal,
Monta Ellis. I'm trying to think of like the weird guys: Deion Waiters and Latrell Sprewell.
It's a good one.
There's the 4. All right, on today's show, we're gonna here we go. 4 questions, 2 from each of us on the biggest free agency questions, 4th of July talk, and more on today's Just Basketball show.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
What is up, everyone? Welcome in to the Just Basketball show, your 3 times a week show covering all things hoops. If you haven't already, follow, rate, and review on your podcast app of choice. Hit subscribe on the Just Basketball Fans YouTube channel, and check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and X. More betting content coming to in TikTok in particular soon. Want to tell you, too, that support for today's show is brought to you by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use code JustBasketball, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here is how that works. Step 1. You download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android and sign up using code JustBasketball. Step 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if the bet loses. Just make sure to use bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply. Wes, let's get into our questions. Biggest questions left of the offseason. I'm going to go first. And it's, what do the Pelicans do? And I'm going to sneak in a second part of this, is what does that mean for Brandon Ingram? I think we all know Brandon Ingram is not going to be on the Pelicans. We know he's not. But that's a useful salary for them to trade. That is someone that it seems like is gathering interest around the league. You know, I never really fully bought the Philly thing for him just because he doesn't really fit the Morey model in a lot of ways. So that just felt like a cap space thing to me. But Cleveland's been linked. The Pelicans have been linked. I think some other teams will be interested. Even if his stock has never been lower, I would be scared to be the team that gives him the mammoth next contract. That is someone I expect to be traded, and it could have to do with what the Pelicans do. They still need a center. I know they drafted one in the first round, but that's not good enough for, I think, what this team is. You add DeJounte Murray. What other moves are they going to make? Because I think this roster feels incomplete. I mean, not only is Jonas Valanciunas now a Wizard, but they traded Larry Nance to get Murray. Those were the 2 guys that played center for them in different ways last year. They don't have the replacements yet. That feels like such a big domino for a team that showed a lot of promise towards the end of last year. Faded out, obviously, in the playoffs, but a team, West, that I could see having a big year next year with the retooled roster, but I think there's clearly still work to be done here.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expects Yves Missy, the center they took in the first round, to be ready to play starters minutes right away. But I think, could play rotation minutes right away. But how many? I don't know. Are they effective? Who knows? The Brandon Ingram thing is so strange because there's no doubt that guy is a good basketball player. Mm-hmm. The guy can get a bucket. He's a good scorer. You like his size, all these things. But I kind of hate him for every roster in the NBA. There's not a team that I love Brandon Ingram for, and you're asking, and it's similar to Zach LaVine in that the dude can ball, but where does he fit? And even more importantly, who's going to pay him? Because these are also these guys who are expecting to get max contracts. Well, Zach LaVine is paid like a max player already. Brandon Ingram is up for an extension, and you're going to assume that whatever team trades for him is going to want to sign him long term. So, are you really going to pay Brandon Ingram like a max player in a new CBA world where you could really only afford 2 max level guys, and then everybody else has to be high level sort of supporting cast type players? So, what team out there is going to say, yeah, we really feel good about Brandon Ingram being one of our 2 tentpole franchise players. We think that if he's one of our 2 best players, we can win a championship. No team, because that's not an accurate statement. So I don't know. This is a really interesting case study in how the NBA is going to operate. There was always this tier of player, LaVine, Brandon Ingram, these kinds of guys, who you just gave the max money to. We all know, like, these guys aren't max players, but we're just going to pay them because they're close enough, and you don't really haggle. There's no real middle ground. You're either a max player, or you're like a $20 million a year player, or you're the high level, the mid-level exception type player, or you're a minimum guy. There's gonna have to be a market correction on players like Brandon Ingram and Zach LaVine at some point, because teams are just not going to pay these guys. And if the Pelicans can't, and I don't know that's going to happen with Brandon Ingram, but it could be. And if they can't trade him, if the Pelicans get so stuck that they can't trade Brandon Ingram, and they don't extend him, and he just becomes a free agent next year, that max money's not going to be there.
No.
And he's going to have to negotiate. We're going to get into this world where really good players who could score 26 points per game are going to get something less than the max. And we're going to have real negotiations where we're going to have some funky looking contracts here. And I think in a good way. I think there was that little middle ground that never existed. I think we're going to carve that out now, because teams are just not going to pay these guys the way they expect to get paid and used to get paid all the time. And Brandon Ingram might be sort of ground zero for that.
If I was other teams, I would be, I think, let me ask you this. Who would you prefer in a trade if you're going to give up real stuff for an expensive forward? Jeremy Grant or Brandon Ingram?
Understanding you would have to probably give up a little bit less for Jeremy Grant, I'd rather have Jeremy Grant. The thing about Grant is he plays great defense. Neither Grant or Ingram rebound a whole lot.
Nope.
But I also like Grant's shot chart a little bit more. And again, Brandon Ingram's a better player than Jeremy Grant, but Jeremy Grant fits on more teams that already have their stars. Jeremy Grant has done that thing. You're not acquiring Jeremy Grant with the expectation that you have to A, pay him, and B, make him one of your featured players. He's going to play off of your featured players. Brandon Ingram that's because of the way Jeremy Grant plays. He could be that high-level supporting player. Brandon Ingram does not play anything like that. He does not do those in-between-the-margin things. He doesn't space the floor. He wants to take those mid-range shots. It's just really hard to build a team around Brandon Ingram, and it's really easy to plop a guy like Jeremy Grant onto basically any roster. So I pick Grant. No question.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and that's sort of my point here. It's like if you're trading for Ingram, he's a high volume, needs a ball in his hands kind of guy. The utility off ball is not super there. If you wanted to tell yourself there is a bounce back in him because he is this pedigreed guy with a big frame and a skill set, and maybe a change of scenery that fits him better, great. I could buy that story. But to your point, Wes, like, at particularly good teams, I don't know exactly where he fits. Like the Cleveland fit, I don't like him, and Mitchell to me is just a really bad fit in terms of what could make him comfortable. And if I'm Cleveland, is that, if that, it feels like that's not a Garland trade at this point. So is it an Allen and LeVert trade? Like, what is that even doing for New Orleans? Like, New Orleans gets Allen, but like the Cavs, you need, I think, some picks and then reroute some of those picks. Like, it gets really complicated really fast. You almost, I think, need to look at the bad teams in the league to see, you could say, like, hey, we need like a innings-eating scorer kind of type. And, is it like, would Brooklyn do it? They seem to be tanking. That might be an okay fit just from that perspective.
Would you, if you're the Pelicans,
Wizards,
if Brooklyn called you and said, we'll give you Ben Simmons straight up, Brandon Ingram?
I think I would want like
just
a
to
pick.
get out of it. Maybe a pick. Ben Simmons in a first.
I think about it, but I think that's also just where the market is broken, right? Like the market dictates this stuff, dictates trades more than I think we know how to talk about sometimes, because we don't always know. We don't have all the information. It's not like the stock market where we see how traders are trading into things and seeing how things go up and down. we don't get the exact inputs there, but we can look at this Ingram thing and say that his stock is down. I think we can look at that and say that unequivocally. If his stock was where it was a year ago, 2 years ago, the Pelicans are probably just paying him right now, and we're moving on, and they're maybe trading him in a year or something like that. But it's been abundantly clear for like 6 weeks now that they are going to trade him, and flat out are saying we don't want to give him his next contract, which that tells you everything you need to know about like where he's at. And there's also just doesn't seem like the guys teams are going after right now. It feels like if you're looking at the pecking order of name players still available via trade or free agency, DeRozan's more wanted than him. Markkanen is definitely more wanted than him. And there's been more Jeremy Grant, very slightly in with one team, but there's been some more Jeremy Grant buzz than there has been Brandon Ingram buzz, like except for like the Kings. And even the Kings fit, that just feels like a desperation thing.
I hate that.
And we'll get to that. I have a question about the Kings we'll get to later that I want to explore. We'll come back to Ingram in that sense and just what they're going to do. But I can't find, like, when I look at the standings, Wes, and was, like, looking through the teams last year who could make a move, to me it was, like, the Bulls in a different world, I think, could have made sense. It doesn't really make sense to me now. I think, like, it's like the Nets, the Wizards, the Pistons just want to be super weird, but I don't like that fit for Cade. That's just a weird one that doesn't really fit. Like I feel like a Jazz guy. The Grizzlies, like, like I don't know what the right fit is unless some team's going to treat you one for one.
I think that the move might be trade for Brandon Ingram, understanding you're not going to extend him, that you're not going to do any of the contract stuff now. You'll wait until the summer, and maybe you're a team that's just trying to go all in for this year, and you said, you know what, we need one more scoring option on this team. Let's just figure it. Let's just trade for this guy and figure it out. And maybe we're able to get off some long-term cap stuff, something like that. Does a team like Milwaukee make sense for Brandon Ingram? Not really on paper, but if I'm the Bucks and I haven't done anything else, I could talk myself into it. I don't know what you would have to give up. Like, that's the whole other part of it. But that to me makes a desperate team that's in the middle of their championship window and kind of has to act now kind of makes sense to me for Brandon Ingram, but also that team probably wouldn't extend him because they're maybe at the tail end of a championship window and maybe they value some flexibility going forward.
Do you, well, and on this from the Pelican side of it, how urgent do you think they need to be in going to get like a good center, not just like a average starting center, like really, pushing for an Allen, pushing for some other center on the trade market? Is there something there? Is there something to that where, like, I am in the mind that I think they got to go find someone more than a little bit above just base competency. Is there anyone to you that?
So I think that they need to have a plan here. If I'm New Orleans, the one thing I am thinking about is a year from now, Brook Lopez and Miles Turner could both be free agents, and those guys are kind of perfect fits for the things that I'm looking for and players that they've been targeting in trades in the past and just haven't been able to get. So do I just wait? Do I do the whole put the feelers out there throughout the season, send some guy in the front office to sit front row in every Bucks game and every Pacers game and just sort of schmooze with Brook Lopez and Miles Turner for a year to say, you know what, we really want you in New Orleans? So I would keep that in mind if I was New Orleans, is I could get those guys in 12 months, and I don't really know what the rush is if you're the Pelicans. Zion's still young. Trey Murphy's young. I know that they want to take the step forward, but this is part of it, right? And so, and they got DeJounte Murray, and that was good. But I think they do need to go
prefer
get
Turner than Lopez. Turner would be the one just because of the spacing and youth. Like I'm not, Lopez is good, but
no doubt.
The age thing would scare me if I was them.
No doubt. They need to get somebody at that position though. But then, do you think that they're gonna? If you're the Pelicans, is your plan to go with Zion at the 5 and go small to close these games? Because if that's the case, if that's the plan, then you don't need a $20 million a year center right now. Maybe you just need a guy on the minimum or the mid-level exception or whatever that is. But they do need somebody other than Missy on the roster. You need some seasoned NBA player with proven NBA chops. So I don't know who that is. The free agent market's not great.
What if they were the Walker Kessler trade team? We've heard Kessler's name is like out there. I wouldn't hate that. Cheaper right now.
Yeah.
Young. Kessler would make some sense to me if they could get. I don't know how the Jazz might want like a bunch of stuff, but
that's the problem. Is you're dealing with Danny Ainge. He's going to be like 3 first-round picks for Walker Kessler, and you'll be like, all right, chill, dude. But how they should trade. They should do something, but go get a guy, even if that guy is not the long-term answer right now. It's fine. One last Brandon Ingram fit team. The Pelicans. Are we sure that it doesn't work? Because
I think they're sure. I think that's
it. Feels like they're sure, but you kind of need a guy who can create his own shot on that team. And CJ McCollum isn't getting any younger. I guess the answer would be DeJounte Murray. Now that you got DeJounte Murray, you need him.
Yeah.
You don't need Brandon Ingram
And
as much.
I think they're also very
off
high on Trey Murphy, who they're going to
as they should be. And
As
you
they
need
should,
to
yeah.
play. You need to play Murphy. You need to play Herb Jones as many minutes as possible. But I just look at a team that needs a team like the Pelicans. Zion isn't sort of that classic shot creator. You do need a guy who could just sort of bounce the ball and get into his spots. DeJounte Murray's that guy now for them. So that was why that's a good pickup. But if they did not get DeJounte Murray, I still wasn't totally off on Brandon Ingram. The problem is that you have two wings who are arguably better or have higher ceilings than Brandon Ingram at this point who you need to play, and that was their biggest problem.
Yeah, more functional on Zion, more modern kind of pieces. I think that's the thing. All right, Wes, let's go to your first question. What do you got?
So my first question is, who is under more pressure? Who's under the most pressure to do something the rest of this offseason? We're not even a week into this free agency, and it feels like everybody's like, oh, we're kind of done here. This has been kind of a bust of an offseason. It's like
Thanks a lot,
we're not
aprons.
we're not even a week into it. There's still 3 months to go before the next season starts. A lot of stuff can still happen, and I do think that there are some teams kind of waiting out this first wave and still trying to make moves, right? The Lowry market and domino still has to fall, and I think that domino could create a ripple effect and create other things that could happen too, as we've seen. What team do you think, Chris, is under the most pressure to do something the rest of this offseason?
I'm torn in this in a couple of ways because my heart tells me I should go with a legacy team, a team that has an all-time generational talent that hasn't gotten better yet this summer. So my gut is to go with the Warriors. Lost Clay, have Steph, they got Buddy Hield. They've done some stuff though, so it doesn't totally feel like it feels like those might be their moves. We'll see if the marketing thing comes through. Part of me wants to think it's Miami. I could see that. I could see an argument for Cleveland because you got Mitchell. It's time to throw some gas on that fire and see what you can do. You can make a case for some bad teams as well. Like, do the Pistons need to, if they're going to, the way they're signaling, it's like they want to be competitive. That's the case. I think, though, my ultimate, and I can think about the Nuggets, I think I'm going to go with the Warriors just because I think they owe it to Steph to make this roster better. And while I like Kyle Anderson, I like Buddy Hield for them, I don't think it's enough yet. I do not think it's fully been enough. And I think something a little bolder, a little more needle moving, I think that's my one.
They're definitely in the market to try to do something. I don't think that's a secret at all. That's not even me reporting it. But they've positioned themselves by waiving the Chris Paul contract and letting Klay Thompson walk to do something, right? How big is that something? I don't know. I'm with you. I'm going to give you a quick top five, and then we can
Let's do it.
Kind of do a deep dive into these teams. So the 5 teams under the most pressure to do something the rest of this offseason. Number 5, the Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
Number 4, the Chicago Bulls. Number 3, the Golden State Warriors. Number 2, the Miami Heat. And number 1 is the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll start with the Warriors there because it's the team you brought up, and I agree. Even if I don't think that there's a world where they make a move and they become, they enter that top tier in the West. I don't know. Even if you get Lowry Markkanen, that's not moving the needle that much in that direction, right? It makes you better. It's not moving the needle to the point where you're up there with Oklahoma City, Minnesota, maybe even not Denver. But I do think with Steph, with what else he's gotten, what left he has in his career, you owe it to him not necessarily to win a championship, right? The guy's already got 4 rings, but to at least have a chance to get to the second round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that should just be the goal if you're the Warriors, while you're also maintaining and building your base for whatever the next era of Golden State Warriors basketball is. Get those guys playoff experience, Kuminga, Podziemski, Trace Jackson Davis, all these guys. But yeah, you just can't be a play-in tournament or a play-in team, and you can't be out of the playoffs in April. You got to be in the playoffs. You got to have Steph on that stage. I think ultimately, if you ask Steph, obviously he would say, "I want to win another championship." What else is he going to say? But ultimately, I bet what he wants is just a taste of the playoffs every single year, right? Playing for stakes in the most meaningful part of the season. He wants to be on that stage, and I don't blame him. By the way, Draymond Green needs that too. Both of those players need stakes.
Steve
they
Kerr.
thrive on
Steve
it.
Kerr's a head coach.
Steve Kerr, yes, 100%. So, but to your point, they still are under pressure to do something. I think the Milwaukee Bucks have to shake it up. And it is crazy that they haven't yet. They added Torian Prince and DeLon Wright. Those are their offseason moves. They took a player in the first round nobody's ever heard of. That's it.
Did not get the first round pick. Did not understand that at all. Like I'm for lottery tickets, but maybe if you had 3 picks and 2 were seconds and you took a lottery ticket in the second round and we're gonna throw them to your Oshkosh G League team, like that makes sense. But they in a draft with like some older guys, like it didn't make sense to me not to just take one that you thought could play. Like they just even if that guy is like a below average regular season player, they needed a minutes eater just to like make their they need a more functional rotation.
That roster makes me scared. It feels really thin, really shaky,
old.
And it just felt like they really. And I know they just made the big trade last summer, and we live in a world where it's like, well, they just went and got Damian Lillard, and I still think it was the right trade, but it just feels like that roster doesn't work. And they were out there. The reporting out there was that they wanted to play more versatile defensively, and maybe that they can move on from Brook Lopez. I thought they should have been a Nick Claxton team. I thought they should have seriously looked into that. I don't know if they would have been able to figure out a sign and trade of it. I thought they should have been looking at that at the deadline last year, quite frankly. But they need to do something, and they just haven't really done anything. And the reason they're number 1 on my list here is you're on the clock with Giannis. I know he just signed that extension, but those extensions go quick, man. And he can, if he's looking around, hey, I was just in the finals. I won the championship in 2022. And this thing's going nowhere real fast, right? Like, reality hits you in the NBA quickly. And you can go from the top of the mountain to a middling team very quickly. And it feels like that's where the Milwaukee Bucks are headed from. Maybe there's something to be said about, hey, you know what? Damian Lillard comes in, full year, in shape, healthier. Giannis, Damian Lillard, year 2. Doc Rivers, full season, training camp, can put his staff in place, all those things. Maybe that's enough to get them over the hump, but Philadelphia got better. Boston's the reigning champs, and it just feels like the Bucks need to do more, and they haven't.
I agree. The Middleton thing is the thing to me. It's like that would kind of be the guy. I think Lopez, with what they do, feels integral. You're not trading Giannis, obviously. I don't think you can trade Dame at this point. I think you went down this rabbit hole, and I think there's still more to get out of the Dame Giannis partnership that we didn't see last year. I'm curious to see like if they can just get more juice out of that specific orange. Middleton, though, is this older, expensive, injury banged up guy. It's like who is the market for Middleton if you put him out there? Is it like the Kings have a trade offer for they want to do something, but it's like are they a Middleton team? Is like their package of Barnes and you get Kevin Huerter in like a pick? Like is that like really helping you that much?
I would do that if I were Milwaukee, but I don't know that I would do that if I was Sacramento.
But I agree. But even if you're the Bucks, like, is that a trade that is really like making your team better? I don't know if it is. Middleton is kind of like with the ball handling, with the size at that position is key, and like Herter's fine, but we understand he can kind of go very up and down, and we know exactly what Harrison Barnes is in the playoffs. We know exactly what his limitations are. It's a body, but like, can he play between Brook and Giannis? Can he be like the third forward on the floor? Like your spacing then is so congested. If it's those 3 guys, I think it gets hard. But like the Lakers, I've thought about if that. But like, do you don't like D'Lo? Like, there's not like a good Middleton trade out there either. There's not a team like in that desperate zone of willing to give you stuff for Chris Middleton right now.
It's sort of similar to the Brandon Ingram and DeMar DeRozan market, isn't it? Like, it's hard if those players aren't established where they are and have the ability to have the ball in their hands all the time. It's really hard to shoehorn those players onto another roster where they're sort of mid-range heavy, don't take as many threes as you might want. Obviously, there's talent there, but where they fit on your particular roster is a little bit more difficult. So Chris Middleton is one of those guys who also I just feels like has more value to the team he's currently on than teams around the league.
100%.
So, I don't know. If I was Atlanta, would I take a shot on Chris Middleton, championship guy? I can move maybe a DeAndre Hunter-based package into Milwaukee. And I could get some winning stuff in here if I'm Atlanta. I kind of like that. But again, if I'm Milwaukee, maybe I can get Onyeka Okongwu in that deal. And now I could play a little bit more versatile defensively. Is like Okongwu and Bogdanovich enough? Okongwu and Hunter, something like that. I would maybe shop that around if I was Milwaukee. The one thing we do know about the Milwaukee Bucks is they can operate in silent like the G in lasagna, right? We know they can do that because that's how they pulled off the Damian Lillard trade last summer. So maybe they are doing all this stuff behind the scenes and we just don't know about it yet. Like I said
very
earlier,
possible.
There's still 3 months left in the offseason. Maybe the Bucks have a trick up their sleeve, but it just feels like they have to do something. And then number 2 on my list was the Miami Heat.
Well, can I give you one
yeah.
last? I have one last Bucks thing. I just want to throw this out there as like this is like if we had conspiracy music, we could play it. Can I just tell you a trade call I would make, just to see? Yeah, there we go. Brendan's absolutely gonna text me and be like, "You're a moron for this," and I can't wait. So, like, the Houston Rockets, like, apparently just are very reticent to pay Alperen Sengun, and I don't really understand that because that guy's fucking awesome. We know the Rockets really wanted Brook Lopez. Like, they were like, Brook Lopez, we would like you. I would just be like, hey, can we do this? What would it take? I just want to know. They're going to hang up on you, but I would call.
You should at least make the call.
Should make the call and be like, are you guys really, like, not sure on Sengun? And we know you like Brook. And I would get weird. It would be very bold, and I don't think that's going to happen, but I would just make phone calls.
I think people would be surprised how often calls like that actually do happen in the NBA.
Way more than ever gets out. Than ever gets out.
There are GMs who just kind of do the trade machine thing, and that's kind of your job is to at least call, right? You never know. It's hey, like, what's your evaluation on Alperen Sengun? Is there something there for us? And then maybe Houston could literally be like, we really like Brook Lopez. If you're willing to throw in some draft picks or whatever, maybe we can make something work. And you're like, really? Okay. That's how the Tyrese Halliburton, DeMontis Sabonis thing happens, right? Yeah. It's like, no, the Kings would never trade Halliburton. That guy's awesome. They just picked him. They would never trade him for Sabonis. Would you guys do this for Sabonis? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Call it into the commish. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's get weird. They should maybe that'll be our August NBA trade. Let's talk about the Miami Heat, Wes, at number 2 for you.
So a little bit in the same boat as Milwaukee, but kind of for the opposite reason. So Milwaukee makes their big splash last year with Damian Lillard. Don't really have the complementary pieces and support system in place to support their tentpole stars. Miami tried to get Damian Lillard last summer, didn't. Ended up really just running it back after the 2023 finals run, but didn't really plan to run it back. Kind of were forced to run it back. And then this year, haven't really made any big additions outside of signing Alec Burks to a minimum contract. They're really going to run it back for the second year in a row. This core now in Miami between Bam, Tyler Hero, and Jimmy Butler has been together for 6 years. Mm-hmm. That's an eternity in the NBA. And they've had a lot of success. I'm not saying that they haven't, but it just feels like this team is getting pretty stale after a couple of years of really not making any major changes, not making any major trades. And I shouldn't say that. They added Terry Rozier last year, but it really just feels like this team that has won an average of 45 games over the last 2 seasons in the regular season and has been a play-in team 2 years in a row and is 6th in the league in total payroll, and they're just going to bring it back. Now, I know that the Miami Heat are working the phones. I know they're trying to do stuff. There's a report even this morning that they want to get in on Lauri Markkanen. Their biggest problem is that they have one first-round pick that they can trade right now, unless they start lifting protections off stuff, which can be dangerous for obvious reasons.
For Markkanen, it might be worth it, was what I would say. The only thing.
Maybe. But it just feels like this team is another. I think they have something up their sleeve, but they're under a lot of pressure to do something. Because if they don't do anything, I don't know that they're going to be better than what they've been the last couple of years in the regular season, which has been a 45-win team and forced to try to make the playoffs through the play-in tournament again.
I think this is a good one. I think Jimmy at his age, I think Bam in his prime, I think the organizational impetus to always go for it. I think the payroll part of it is true too. It's like you have an expensive roster. You kind of got to do something with that. And look, you have tradables. You have at least numbers you can use in trades. How tradable like a Tyler Hero is I think open for debate, but I think you at least have to explore that stuff, and you owe it with your payroll and the age of your franchise and just what that team is about, I think, to do it. I think that's a great number 2. I think so. We have Warriors at 3, Kings at 4. We're going to get to them next. I want to. Can I suggest Cavs over Bulls at 5? Because I think the Bulls.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just
put the Bulls in there because their fans are always putting them under pressure to do something, and it kind of feels like they're still like, okay, we finally traded. We finally did this over here. We've traded Caruso to get an asset back. We're out of the DeMar DeRozan game, it looks like, for now. But it still doesn't really feel like they've gone in the tank thing. It still just sort of feels like they're hedging as a middling team.
Yeah.
Even though they could easily be very bad next year, but still. Yeah. But I'm fine. You know what? Yeah, let's do Cleveland because it does feel like you got to do something. You committed to Donovan Mitchell. All right, now what?
Yeah, and you see what's going on with them right now. They're linked to Miles Bridges, which sure about that? We sure about being the team to like?
Someone's going to do it.
Look, I say this as someone who is I'm recording this from downtown Cleveland now, where I live, where I call home. Having Deshaun Watson and Miles Bridges in the same sports ecosystem is just like, what are we doing?
I might as well put them all in there.
Yeah, who can the Guardians bring back? Trevor Bauer? Like, is that where we're headed? Like,
Can you sign Shohei Ohtani's translator?
That'd be awesome, honestly. Surprised like a sports book hasn't tried to like a really shady sports book, like an offshore one.
What's the move if you're Cleveland? You got to trade Darius Garland. I do have a crazy one for you.
Let me ask, would you if you were going to try to trade one of them? And also the other move out there is that Bobby Marks has said he knows about a sign and trade for Isaac Okoro. That he can't say what it is, but it seems like Okoro's gone. And personally, I think that's I love Okoro. I hold more Okoro stock than probably anybody.
Maybe that's Milwaukee's big move.
Look, he's good. I think that guy's good, and I think it's a failure on Cleveland's player development that they didn't get more out of him over the last couple of years. Would you, if you were Kobe Altman, Mike Ganzi, that front office, Kenny Atkinson's now your head coach, you got Mitchell to re-sign, DeMar Carroll now on Kenny Atkinson's staff, which I thought was cool. Mm-hmm. Which guy do you think needs to be traded more to improve this roster and fit what Atkinson's going to do? Is it Jared Allen or is it Darius Garland?
You got to trade Garland.
I kind of think it's Allen. I think it's Allen.
The thing with Allen actually has chemistry with Donovan Mitchell. That's the problem.
And with Kenny Atkinson.
And I think in today's NBA, just make Donovan Mitchell your point guard.
Yeah.
And then play wings around him, three wings and a center around him, right? That to me seems like the formula. So if you could trade Darius Garland for something, Darius Garland, man, if I was another team, I would be he's banging on the door to trade for Darius Garland.
That guy's good. And he's
you
have
put him in charge of an offense and let him go to work. That guy can. I mean, he was an all-star a couple years ago. So, what could they get for Evan Mobley?
Notably, his rookie extension isn't done yet.
Yeah,
which I don't think that's anything. But so, what are you trading Mobley for? What do you think? I think it's a lot. I think you could get a lot for him. He's an Uber Defense Player of the Year finalist the year before last, and the year two had an injury kind of plaguing the year last year. I think it's pretty clear to anyone who watches basketball with any sort of intention that a move to the 5 for him would force some growth that we haven't seen yet.
I love Evan Mobley. Okay. I'm not sure if. I mean, this sounds crazy, but if you're building around Donovan Mitchell's your star player. I think you can have Donovan Mitchell, and I love the way he works with Jared Allen. That's the biggest problem with Cleveland is that the player you're most committed to actually doesn't really fit with your two best players, who are currently not including Darius Garland because it's just the fit in the backcourt is so weird. Your two best players right now are Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell, and it just feels like you should build around that. And I do wonder if there's a world where you could trade. And I know that they're trying to make him shoot threes and all these things. And I heard you and Brendan talk about this last week, I think, and how you're almost forcing Evan Mobley to develop the wrong way because Jared Allen is on the roster. Now, if you trade Jared Allen and you make Mobley the full-time 5, fine. That's fine also. But we've seen, like, if they're out there trying to trade Jared Allen, you're getting if Brandon Ingram is the thing you're getting back, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What are you really trading Jared Allen for? Is it maybe worth it to say, okay, well, maybe we keep this guy. We know we can get a ton for Evan Mobley out there. We have our star player in Donovan Mitchell committed for 3 more years. Maybe we could afford to look at it. And I would be looking for like a really strong wing to pair next to Donovan Mitchell or something. And I don't know the team. I don't know the trade that's out there, but I don't know. I ask the question only. What could you get for Evan Mobley? And I agree with you. I think you can get a lot for him.
Yeah, I wonder what that would look like. And I wonder, like, is it a 3-teamer where like a young teams give like the Jazz, for instance, give you a lot of picks and then you bring
Larry Markkinen back?
I mean, I would do it. I think one of the original this maybe would have caused the Mitchell deal not to happen, but I have Wes thought more than I'm willing to admit about if they had just given another first. Another swap, try to get Carousel Vert salary in there instead of Markkanen's. I think this team would have been healthier if they just found a way to keep Lowry. I really do. Even if you did not get the Lowry breakout we saw in Utah, which I don't know if Cleveland, from a player development standpoint, was as equipped to get that. They're just historically not the best team of player development. Utah got a lot out of Markkinen that we didn't see ever before in Chicago or Cleveland. Markkinen just is like a functional modern NBA player, and I think maybe you had to give him up, but I thought that was a mistake to lose that guy. I really did at the time.
Would you trade him for like Kyle Kuzma, the kid that they just picked, Bub Carrington in the first round, Kispert? Like
It's
just
got
a bunch of stuff.
It's got to be. It would need to be. I think you would need to be really picky and have to be like a star level, marketing level, like all-star level guy who fits you better. It can't be like Kuzma sub all-star level. Like I don't need young guy. I need.
And they just drafted Sar, so they probably wouldn't do that.
And then you need well, we'll see it as ours, but I think they would need like real stuff to do it, and I think it would have to be like a lot. I really do.
If you're Kobe Altman, would you call the Magic and just offer Mobley for Franz Wagner and see what happens?
Yeah, probably take Mo back too. Just
To keep them together.
Yeah, keep the brothers Wagner together.
That's fine.
Yeah, I would do it. No call.
You have to make the call. All right. Just I wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, I think this is a great answer. All right, let's go to the next one. Sacramento Kings. They were number 4 on our list. This is West to me the number 1 team in the Western Conference that is at risk of getting left behind in the dust. They haven't done anything this summer. They kept Malik Monk. They're basically right now the same team they were last year. Their trade package is not that exhilarating. We know what Sabonis and Fox is a really good duo offensively. Fox and Sabonis have both been incredible the last couple of years. I'm a big Keegan Murray guy. I think it's right that they are not going to put him in trade talks. I think you have to keep investing in that guy. And I know they don't have the asset pool like the Pelicans do or like the Jazz do or some of these other teams do or the Thunder. They don't even have like a Giddey level prospect just to like trade to get Caruso or something. But I really, really don't look at what's going on with them this summer. And if it's Brandon Ingram, it's DeMar DeRozan, those are both players that have positive attributes. I don't think either of them really fit what the Kings are or what they do. They don't help the defensive problems that team has. It doesn't feel like there is a move to me available to them that they can make that is going to really help them compete what is going to be a bare-knuckle brawl Western Conference. Like, this is going to be close quarters combat. This is going to be bloody all next year. And if you're telling me you had to pick one team that's going to get pushed down into next year, I really look at the Kings. It's like the Kings and the Lakers and the Clippers are the 3 teams I'm looking at and wondering, okay, like, are we sure this isn't going to go much worse for you next year? For reasons not even your fault, but just because you could not improve this summer.
This is the problem when your 2 best players are negatives on defense. It's really hard to build around them. It's really hard to build around De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. Everybody else has to be a high-end defender and has to be a good 3-point shooter because also the part of your offense is you run that 2-man game in the middle of the floor. You need space. You need those guys to be shooters. On paper, they built it the right way. Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter. Those guys are long, can shoot threes, and can defend multiple positions. Like, on paper, it works. The problem is that you just need better versions of all those players. And part of that, to your point, Keegan Murray will become a better Keegan Murray with time. So that's sort of built in. But Harrison Barnes is going the other way. Kevin Huerter is plateaued. And I like bringing back Malik Monk. That was huge for them. They just need better versions of Barnes and Huerter. And so how do you go out and get those players when you're trying to trade Barnes and Huerter for those players, right? That's the hard part. Now, luckily, if you're Sacramento, you owe 1 first-round pick to Atlanta this year. It's protected for the top 12 picks and then protected 1 through 10 in 2026. So they technically can't trade a first-round pick until 2028, but that would still give them a few first-round picks to play with in the trade market. You can also put Keegan Murray in there if the player is right? Like, he's not untouchable, even though I do like him a lot. But you can't consider him untouchable.
Would you trade him for Markkinen?
Yeah, I don't like Markkinen for that roster. Like, I get it, but defensively, I don't know that he's good enough for me to invest all of that into. It's why I don't like Brandon Ingram. I hate Brandon Ingram from that roster. I hate that. Yeah. I hate that so much for them.
The Ingram thing is one of the worst ideas I've heard floated like in a long time.
And DeMar DeRozan, if you can get him at the mid-level exception, at that point it's just a value play. We'll talk about that later. But the Devin Carter pick I really like for them. I thought that was a really good pick for them. I like them trading for Jalen McDaniels. Again, one of those long, defensive-oriented wings. Maybe they're just hoping he could be 80% of what Jaden McDaniels is, but we have not seen that throughout his career so far. But you're right when you say when they're under pressure to do something. I think the bar is a little bit lower for Sacramento than it is for these other teams. If you're Mike Brown, if you're the GM, to keep your job, you just got to take steps forward. I don't know that you necessarily need to make the finals or even the Western Conference Finals, but you got to win a playoff series. I think that's what you need to do if you're the Sacramento Kings. Okay, well, if then that's the goal, then yeah, maybe a DeRozan or a Lauri Markkanen does help you do that. But De'Aaron Fox can be a free agent 2 years from now. And I think that's the scariest thing for Sacramento, and that's why I had them on my pressure index here, is because everything you're building around right now can fall apart in 2 years if you don't get to a point where De'Aaron Fox is really confident that that's where he wants to spend the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a team that is sort of quietly under a bit of a time crunch, despite the fact that they just kind of assembled this thing around De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, but Fox has been there for a long time. De'Aaron Fox has been there, this is his 8th year or something? He's been there for a while. So, yeah, they do need to do something. I have a trade idea.
Hit me. Let's do it.
Trade everything for Jimmy Butler.
Love
I know
this.
that the Heat just said, or Jimmy Butler just said, I want to come back to Miami, but I'm not going to force the extension. And that seemed like a win on paper for the Heat. I wonder if it was more of a loss behind the scenes where they said, well, maybe we're going to be able to get this jail out of free card, in essence, where Jimmy Butler demands the trade, and now we could start the rebuild phase of all of this. Because if you look at the Heat's roster, they're quietly really young and built through the draft. It's Bam, Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, Tyler Hero. They just drafted Khalil Ware, who we talked about. It's a young roster outside of Jimmy Butler. So, could you, if the other thing that we know teams don't like, it seems like, again, a win on paper. Oh, Jimmy Butler's not going to force our hand for this extension. We get him back. We don't have to worry about this. But Jimmy Butler can opt out next year, become a free agent, and if you're the Heat, you lose him for nothing. And teams don't like losing star players for nothing, right? I think it's become a little bit easier to do that because now they would argue, well, it's not nothing. It's cap space under the second apron and all this stuff, and we get our mid-level exception back, and we get all these things that we could do, sign and trades unlocked because we're not an apron team anymore, whatever. They still would rather get assets back. So I think if you're a team out there and you're desperate, you could still call the Heat. And they would have to have a meeting if you bowled them over with a great offer. And if you're the Kings, you put in 2 or 3 first-round picks, Kevin Huerter. You probably have to I would imagine you would have to put Keegan Murray in the deal. But Jimmy Butler's kind of the exact player that they need, right? He's exactly what they need. A two-way player who doesn't need the ball in his hands, right? Because that's De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. They're running your offense. Jimmy Butler can anchor your defense and then do all the winning things that this team doesn't do.
Yeah.
And then you get them into the playoffs, and then you have that opportunity for playoff Jimmy to come out and help you win a round in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I think that's a great shot. I love that. I think that would be the right kind of bold. It obviously carries some risk, but I think the only way the Kings are getting forward this summer is with something really risky like that. So I'm all for this. I like this.
And pay him all the money.
Pay him all the money. Yeah.
Jimmy Butler might say, I'm not going to sign an extension long term in Sacramento, and Sacramento could call the bluff and be like, all right, go find it somewhere else. You're going to be 35 years old next year, buddy. We'll give you the full 3-year extension.
Yeah.
You know, or opt out, and we can sign you we'll sign you to huge money as an unrestricted free agent with your bird rights that we'll acquire.
What do we think, Jimmy? Did you play dominoes when he went to Miami? I don't. My only real 2 connections to Sacramento are the movie Lady Bird and the Sacramento Kings. So I'm not exactly sure what he.
No, Lady Bird pretty much covers it.
Okay. So was he just watch Lady Bird at a drive-in or he rents out a drive-in and watch?
So you want to go
classic.
If you're in Sacramento, so you probably want to. I don't know that you want to hang out on J Street necessarily, but there's a cool little mall by the arena. There's a taco place that's pretty good. There was this. It's like a Dave and Buster's kind of deal over there.
Weren't they the Golden Nugget Casino Arena at one point or something? Am I remembering that correctly?
What are you talking about? Down there?
Kings? Weren't they like a Golden Nugget? What am I forget? I don't know what I'm talking about.
Golden One Center?
Oh yeah, what is that? Is that
it's a bank?
Oh, okay, then that's not fun. Well, I work for a bank, but that's not fun for Jimmy Butler to I'm going to deposit my large check.
You're 45 minutes from wine country.
Okay, so there we go. Yeah.
So that's what you're doing. You're buying a plot in Alexander Valley if you're Jimmy Butler and you're drinking wine on the weekends.
Okay, we've solved it. Jimmy Butler to Kings, he gets into wine. starts diversifying his business interests, gets all the money he wants, and the Kings or the Heat get a bunch of stuff and probably aren't exactly happy with it, but they'll still win like 45 games. All right, let's go to your last question, Wes. Hit me.
Are we sure more teams shouldn't be more in on trying to get DeMar DeRozan? He's a really good player.
And
He's a
very
really
durable.
good player.
Very durable as well.
Extremely durable. And now we're talking about a guy that you can get probably for less than the max. Now, if the reporting around DeMar DeRozan is right, where he wants more than the mid-level exception, I don't know what we have done. And this is my problem with NBA Twitter and the NBA Internet and NBA Reddit, is we all just sort of as a social media collectively are out on a player, and it drives me crazy because then we act like those players have zero value. Oh, he takes too many mid-range shots. You don't want that in today's NBA. You don't want it for any money. I understand not wanting to pay him Brandon Ingram money. Like, I get that. But if I can get DeMar DeRozan for $20 million a year for 2 or 3 more years, sign me up. I am doing that.
Let me throw one thing out there in the Ingram DeRozan comp. We have a better track record more recently of DeRozan being a better playmaker for others than Brandon Ingram.
He's a way better playmaker. He's way more durable. That's what I'm saying. I just think that the guys who are mid-range heavy, just NBA Internet is just collectively sort of out on these guys as if they have zero value whatsoever.
I get that.
This is a guy, over the last 3 years, 28 points, 24.5 points, 24 points per game, right? Always one of the best fourth-quarter players in the league. Has played 76, 74, and 79 games over the last 3 years, and a ton of minutes. The guy plays 37 minutes a night. He basically shoots 50% from the floor. No, he doesn't take threes, whatever. But we're talking about a guy you're not paying the max to, who's a bona fide winning basketball player, a good basketball player. I don't know about winning basketball player. I guess that would be the knock against him. But if he's not your star the way that he was in Toronto or even that couple years in San Antonio or Chicago, if he can be that guy who complements your best players, I really like him as a fit. I know that there's teams out there. I'm not saying that there's no teams that want him. And it seems like right now it's more of the market trying to sort itself out, who can kind of create the space and the money and the means via sign and trade to get DeMar DeRozan. But if it's just what are the reported teams like Sacramento, Miami was kind of is kicking the tires in DeMar DeRozan, the Lakers, that's it.
Yeah.
There should be a dozen teams trying to get DeMar DeRozan. What's going on here?
The other thing too that is interesting is that his end of the Spurs run into the Bulls run is the best years of his careers in terms of his mid-range accuracy. Starting in this starts in 1920, second to last year with the Spurs. 47% for the mid-range, then 48, 49, 48, 46. Like, he is qualitatively a more efficient mid-range player on similar volume than he was with Toronto when he had like the replay of his
You could argue he's coming off the 3 best years of his career.
Yeah.
The guy's awesome. If I'm the Warriors, why am I not trying to get DeMar DeRozan? That moves the needle for me.
The Lakers is the one where I think he's gonna end up with the Lakers.
Yeah, and you know what? That's sort of the fit that I like the least.
I agree. I don't like the Warriors one either because he's just so like out of sync with the way that what the Warriors are.
Wouldn't you argue they need that?
Yeah, but like they've been needing it for years, and it's just like at this point, it's like I don't know if they're ever gonna change.
I feel like we just assume that DeMar DeRozan can't walk into a basketball situation and figure it out.
No, that's true. That's true. The Lakers thing would be clunky, but it just feels like the star talent bet, and like him back in LA would be cool. I like that fit. Hit like the Clippers were also at one point talked about. I like the Lakers fit more than the Clippers fit for him.
I just I don't know why his market is. It might just be a factor of teams just don't have the cap space right now.
Age,
it's just
he's
hard.
35,
and But if I'm a contending team, again, we're talking about all these teams under pressure to do something. DeMar DeRozan, he might not be the guy that makes you a championship team, but he makes your team better, doesn't he?
Yeah, particularly if would take a bench role at some point. I don't know like how willing he is to do like that's like, and that is a thing with guys in the league. When Wes and I like and Brendan as well, like being around the league a long time, you do kind of learn that like there is an ego thing with starting.
Sure.
If he's willing to come with the bench, I'm even more into it.
Yeah, maybe for the right team, but.
Lakers, he would probably do it for the Lakers. And it would make sense. That would be probably the way to do him with the Lakers is have him come off the bench and you stagger him and LeBron a little bit, and then you figure out, And look, I would also trust LeBron to figure that out more than anyone. So you never know.
Memphis, call him.
Yeah,
what are we doing?
Cleveland doesn't have the money.
Houston, call him.
Cleveland is like if Garland's gone, you need a ball handler. Wouldn't hate that.
all these teams that are under pressure to do something, like Houston, I know DeMar DeRozan doesn't fit their age timeline, but the owner doesn't care about that. The owner wants to
They
make,
don't, what age
Right.
timeline, you know?
you give up nothing for DeMar DeRozan. Bring him in for a couple of years. Put him with Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks and your veteran core there. Go win basketball games. DeMar DeRozan helps you win basketball games.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Pelicans?
Go. Sign him. Just call the guy. Why is the market? That's the only part I'm confused. I should be hearing more reports that X team is trying to create cap space and the means to sign DeMar DeRozan. I should be hearing more of that than what we're hearing. He's a good player.
Yeah, it's a good player. I think even basketball, it feels like basketball teams also get like wonked in they don't fit the modern NBA thing a little bit. Like they get stuck in that too. It really it does feel like that a little bit.
It does, but that's the thing is we just get so like tied up in that stuff that we sometimes ignore what the players can do and focus way too much on what these players can't do. And if you're getting DeMar DeRozan, I know he's going to be 35, but if you're getting him for between 15 and 20 million a year, it feels like it's a no-brainer for a lot of these teams that are under like a short-term like pressure, like having that short-term pressure that we were talking about. It just feels like it's a move that you can do that makes your team better in the short term without having to give up any of these long-term assets, right?
I agree. It's a good one. All right,
Like, I honestly don't know how much better Lauri Markkanen is as a basketball player in a vacuum than DeMar DeRozan, and yet the Jazz are going to get 5 first-round picks. Now I get it. He fits with everybody.
Younger,
He's
shoots.
younger. The whole thing. I get that. But it just feels like the gap is too big at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great take. All right, Wes, a couple rapid-fire things to get us out of here. For agency, it's NBA summer. We have the Olympics coming. WNBA is going on. There's still basketball. But this is the time of year when things slow down. Summer League's coming. Summer League's kind of just for fun. It's going to feel like it's going to be the Bronny Circus this year more than anything else. What are you going to spend your next 2.5 months on? You know, maybe we get a trade here or there. We'll be doing the show still 3 times a week, maybe some weeks 2, depending on what's going on. But what are you going to do with your free time?
So I have no hobbies and no discernible skills.
That's troubling. I'm going to be honest.
I don't really know what to do when I have free time. Honestly, I don't really enjoy doing anything. I like my job a lot. But like you said, then when the basketball starts slowing down, there's not a whole lot to do. So we're traveling a lot. My wife and I, we have a lot of trips planned. We've got Vegas Summer League, obviously. She's coming along with me, so that'll be fun. We'll make a little trip out of that. We got Nashville coming up. We got a trip down to the Key Largo. Yeah, as if Las Vegas wasn't enough, we doubled down. Like we also won it with more cowboy hats.
Yeah,
we're just traveling, man. And then I guess we're finishing up Sons of Anarchy, and then we're gonna start The Bear. No spoilers, but we made that agreement, which I'm not totally happy about.
Sons of Anarchy, interesting show choice. We can talk about that off air once you finished. Have you watched any of The Bear?
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay.
I'm all the way up until this season. Okay. I wanted to binge watch the new season, but I lost the debate in my house where it's like, no, we got to finish Sons of Anarchy. I was like, well, there's 3 more seasons left. We could just do the whole Bear thing. Like, nope. I'm like, all right, whatever. That's that's for my wife and I to figure it out. But
yeah.
No, what about you? Like, what are you doing? Because I do. What's
So
your
many.
hobby? I don't understand people's hobbies. What do you do?
I
like
go to the
people
mo-
that like
I-
build stuff. What is that?
Oh, I can't do that. I have no discernible skills. Like last night before I went to bed, I have this little like wooden wolf figurine that my grandma and my grandpa gave me when I was a kid, and I needed to fix it because when I moved about a year ago, the legs fell off it, and I needed to like wood glue it back on, and because I'm gonna need to eventually get a trace for a tattoo. I'm not even good at like gluing things. Like I was just like a bad arts and crafts kid. So
I tried gluing something a few months ago, and it was I spent an hour. It was a disaster. The 2 things that I needed to put together never got put together. It was just, what is a hobby? What do people, I'm 33 years old. What is what's a normal hobby for a 33-year-old?
Here's the 3 things that are on my list.
I don't read.
So you got to start reading. Reading's great. Reading is good for the brain. It gets you off your phone a little bit. I usually
read
have
articles, but I don't read books.
Okay, but I have like 2 books going at once usually. I have a fiction and a nonfiction. And
that's an age appropriate hobby is reading?
Yes, reading is appropriate for everybody, Wes.
So boring though.
No, it's not. Your brain has been. You are like Khalil Ware, and your brain has been rotted by the phones.
What do? You
okay?
sit? Where do you sit on the couch just with a book?
I will sit on the couch. I will go to a coffee shop. I will go to a bar. I will lay in bed before I go to bed at night. I carry a book with me everywhere. Like this afternoon, I have to go to the dealership to get something fixed on my car for a recall. And I'm bringing a book with me. I don't really have to work today. It's a pretty light day for me in my day job, and I'm gonna bring a collection of
nonfiction.
Today is gonna be
history?
fiction. Well,
so you will read fiction, stuff that never actually happened. You'll just read a fake book.
Of course. I have an imagination. I have a worthwhile imagination. Today is I'm reading Ernest Hemingway short stories.
Oh, Hemingway's so overrated.
Fuck.
I don't know what
Pod's
I'm talking
over.
about. I have no idea
okay,
what I'm talking about. Okay, give me another example of a hobby.
Movies. I love going to the movies. It is my detox. Like Saturday, this is very two ends of the spectrum. 10:35 a.m. I'm seeing Ty West, Maxine.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, that's great. You don't need to. You'll never talk to me again after.
Is that
and then
Marvel?
At night, no, God, no. This is a 80s horror, like unpacking like Reagan America movie. Giancarlo Stanton, or not Giancarlo Stanton. Giancarlo
I know him.
Esposito.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, my brain's rotted. Also watch a lot of baseball. That has been my other thing. You're
lucky though.
A lot of baseball.
I can't watch. The Marlins make you not watch.
Cleveland Guardians are awesome. Stephen Kwan, unbelievable. At night, I'm going to a 35 millimeter screening of the Scorsese's Casino.
Okay, so I know Scorsese. I know Casino. 35 millimeters seems really small, so you're probably gonna have to squint.
It's big.
Oh, okay. That sounds great, man. I'm happy for you.
Third one, golf.
I can't do movies. They're too long. I can't sit still for 3 hours. I can't do it.
The phones, Wes. The phones have got you. What do you do on a plane? What do you do on a plane without hobbies?
Yeah, I know like this raw dog in the plane thing.
You just raw dog in flights.
No, I drink wine and I watch a movie on a plane. So I do on planes. I watch movies, but that's my. If you want to know what movies I've seen, get on a JetBlue or an American Airlines flight and go through their thing. Those are the movies I've seen.
Just watching Anyone But You like 9 times. The Beekeeper.
Those are the movies I watch. Yeah, those are the movies I see. The only time I ever let myself watch a movie is on a plane when I have nothing else to do, or I take notes. I'm a big note taker.
Yeah,
I'm a big journaler, so I do those things. And I'm a big. I don't know. So my hobbies, honestly, are drinking and smoking cigars.
Drinking.
That's what I do.
What's your? I'm
gonna do a lot of that this summer.
Here's our overlap. I've decided I want to become a brown liquor man. Super healthy. So I went to the grocery store or went to the liquor store the other day.
Now,
can I
ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
Are you pivoting from a clear liquor person or just a no liquor person?
I will do I'm a cocktail. I love a cocktail. I drink I'm a cocktails and beer guy. So like if I love a mule. I love.
So now when you're trying to pivot to brown liquor, you're talking about you want to drink a bourbon on the rocks. That's the life you want to live now.
So I bought two different brown liquors at the store. I bought a Japanese whiskey.
Which one? Toki?
Torii. Yeah. Toki.
Toky.
Yep. And I bought a bottle of Maker's Mark.
Good choices.
Okay. I bought some ice
part
molds.
of the Jim Beam portfolio. So not sure how the marketing got you there, but you bought which one?
I bought some ice molds as well. They get like a big
square
fat,
round.
I came with both.
Oh, good for you.
I don't know the difference.
Surface area mostly.
Oh, okay. What do you prefer? What's the Wes Goldberg recommendation?
Don't really have a preference on the ice necessarily. If you wanted to water down a little bit more, which would be fine, go round. Square tends to keep its
shape a little more.
Yeah, exactly. No, those are good. Just put the Maker's Mark on the rocks. You can't go wrong with that. The Toki's not my favorite Japanese whiskey, but
starter.
And I actually don't even love it as a starter's Japanese whiskey because I don't really feel like you're getting the floral notes and like that ricey kind of texture that you're going to get from a proper Japanese whiskey. But it is a little bit, and I mean this in a good way, thinner than like a big juicy bourbon like Maker's Mark is.
Yeah.
So if you like the thinner kind of mouthfeel on the Toki, that might be a area of whiskey that you would want to explore more, is like the higher end Japanese whiskeys. And we could talk off air and give you some names, but they start getting expensive.
Yeah.
Maker's Mark is great. Look, there's nothing wrong with Maker's Mark. The only problem with Maker's Mark is you got to watch out on this. 90 proof.
Oh yeah.
People don't realize it. It's not an 80 proof bourbon.
This is sitting at home reading a book at like 10 o'clock for me. Like have a bourbon.
That's sitting at home smoking a cigar and just raw dogging my experience. I'm actually not on my phone as much as people think. I just look at stuff. I'm the weird guy at the bar that just stares straight sometimes.
So Wes, I'm the weird guy at the bar who I bring a book. If I go to the bar by myself and like or
I have
waiting
done
for people,
this.
I bring a book and I sit and read the book.
I'm okay with that. I really am. I have but yeah, these are my hobbies, man. It's cigars, wine, bourbons. That's just what I do.
I'm also trying to get more into golf. That's the other thing, but that's like everyone I think is getting into golf right now.
Yeah, we're a little late on it. I always have my golf bag in my trunk, and I haven't taken it out of my trunk in probably 2 years. But I also live in a city where I live in Florida. There's literally golf courses everywhere, but I live in downtown Miami, so I have to kind of make a trip out to the golf courses. Whatever. Sure. That's our problems. But yeah, good for you having hobbies, man. Proud of you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, try to be what we're doing. Anything else we need to hit, Wes, before we go?
Fireworks, question mark. We're recording this on July 5th.
Okay.
This is more of my whole thing about not having any hobbies. I guess it's sort of part of the same character trait.
Okay.
I don't get fireworks. Overrated. Don't get it.
I agree. Here's why I think you're right, because they scare dogs, and I like dogs being happy. I want dogs to feel like they're in a safe space. It also just people like it creates more traffic than like just about anything else when you try to go to watch fireworks out in public. And I'm a grumpy old person apparently, and like don't like to sit in traffic for 45 minutes.
I just don't want to tilt my head up that long.
Yeah,
gives me neck problems.
Yeah, I would like lay in a blanket though, like sit on a blanket outside and like watch fireworks. I just enjoy the air. Not a bad
I'm not
thing,
a big blanket. I'm not a big blanket on the floor guy.
I'm a big blanket. I like parks. I just like I'll go to a park.
Park's all right.
Park's all right. Wes Goldberg. That's when we sell merch. It's gonna be like good for you for having hobbies and parks are all right.
Parks
when we get real deep niche merch. Brendan, we're so sorry if you listen to this. Brendan ends with me in the movie thing. We're gonna get you on Letterboxd one day, and you're gonna be you guys are absolute sickos. You even know Letterboxd? Oh my god, we'll take this offline. Can't even. If we talk about Letterboxd, we're gonna be here for 900 hours. But this is the Just Basketball Show for Friday, July 5th. I'm Chris Manning. That's Wes Goldberg. Back at you next week with more on all things Soups. We'll talk to you then.